Action Park
Media.
Let's get a mic check here. 1 2 1 2. Episode 9. No gruffs given. Think about it. Yellow school buses are our nation's largest form of mass transit. I just want you to think about that. Think about it. Yellow school buses are our nation's largest form of mass transit. That's from the great and wily Kamala Harris. I'm very excited about it. Episode 9. Episode 9. Episode 9. We have a special guest. We're doing an interview on episode 9. Okay. The great Josh Peck is here. You can say hi.
What an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Happy people are annoying. Okay. I want to talk about the book a little bit because I've written one and I went through the process. So the photo. Did they give you money to hire a photographer to take this picture?
They paid directly to a photographer, but yeah, I'm sure money went out for that.
Okay. And was this like a half-day shoot?
This was I compounded it to about 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
With a little video, EPK.
Okay. So there were extra. They were doing some good.
Yeah, there was some
deliverable
extra
stuff that you were going to be able to use. Why didn't you put any pictures in the book?
I really should have.
I cannot believe you didn't do that.
It was never even offered to me. It was never like a thought.
No one said, "Hey, you can throw some picture inserts in or anything."
I really should have. I've got some great ones.
Because I have like 6 pages of pictures in mine.
What are we talking about? Pee-wees?
Everything. Yeah, the whole, all the, little kid like jersey picture. I think there's one getting a stick for Christmas. I don't know.
I'm imagining you out like on a pond, suburbs, Ontario, Canada, beautiful, picturesque.
Yep.
Dad's cracking a Molson.
Yep.
Yep.
Staying warm in the car, coming
Yeah.
out, the whole thing. Yeah.
And you're just practicing, your one-timers without someone to feed you the one-timers, but you're imagining it.
Yeah, and I'm saying it out loud. It really is. That's the. It's so interesting because I want to get into a lot of things. But okay, second of all, did you do the audio?
I did, of course.
Wow.
Got to do it.
And how long was that? The first time you had ever read an audio book?
Yes.
And they were recording you?
It wasn't. I didn't find it bad at all.
How long did it take?
Say. They had allotted 3 days, and I was proud that it took me 2.
Oh, okay.
And because I'd heard horror stories about it. Did you not enjoy doing yours?
I did it 6 or 7 years ago, and I wasn't ready. Like, I wish I could go back and do it now because I just didn't understand inflection and how to. People listen to it and they love it, but I think it's terrible. But it was a painful process. Yeah. I mean, very tedious.
It's one long voicemail, outgoing voicemail message, right?
Yeah.
But I've done enough voiceovers, and I also pride myself, and I wonder if you're this way too, of like, I want to be Captain Efficient. Like, I want to be the guy who gets you out early.
Yeah.
So what I had to figure out while doing it was, like, to your point, like, how much is too much forward energy? How much am I trying to emote and like win the Oscar here?
Right.
Or just trying to give someone a pleasurable listening experience.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able to just bring people along through the story, and you can't. At no point can I say I'm really fucking annoyed with Josh's voice.
No, bad. And I have a lisp. It's rough.
Is the book selling?
I mean, yeah, I'm not on the New York Times bestsellers list. That's for sure.
You didn't make it?
No.
Do you think? What's the reason why?
I have no idea.
Because I would have said, if somebody put a gun to my head and said you have to choose, I would have said, guaranteed this made it.
I apparently had the numbers. This was how it was rationalized.
It's all political, and I've read a lot of things on how you make it and all the back channel bullshit. But tell me.
I heard that I got put on a very tough list. There's 2 lists in nonfiction, and one is called How To.
Yeah.
And these are books that are like Atomic Habits and Brené Brown and the 4-Hour Work Week.
So they put you on the wrong list.
Like a how-to list.
Why wouldn't you have just been on an autobiography list?
Because there's like a bit of a how-to thing about the whole book. I guess I wrote the book that I'd want to read. Like, I like reading books where there's a bit of a lesson in there, and I just didn't want to nor do I have the stories to make. I guess maybe I do, but I was like, if this is just going to be like a schlocky celeb memoir calling people out and talking about like, what happened on set, I just didn't want to do it. So I wrote the book I wanted to make, and I feel like the people who read it that connected with it got that, but it might have kneecapped me a little bit with sales.
Did you? Well, they put you on the wrong fucking list.
All that to be said, it's done pretty well, but it's certainly not, it's...
Yeah. How long, because I still owe the publisher money, which I think says two things. I had a good agent get me a good advance.
Same here.
But I still owe them money. And, every year, so I can go on there and see. Penguin was my publisher, and you can go on. They have an author's portal. So I can see when a book's been sold, right? But I don't necessarily believe any of, like, maybe they said that there were 10 books sold, but maybe there were 20 books sold. I have no proof and no way to ever really prove that. Do you have an idea of how long it's going to take you to earn off that advance?
I think probably like half to 3/4 of my advance has been earned back at this point.
Wow.
So it's not terrible.
No, so you've sold a lot of books.
Or I didn't get a great advance. No, it was pretty good. It wasn't terrible. But look, dude, I was thinking about this the other day in the podcasts of it all.
Yeah.
Like, this might be misinformation. So I qualify
Well, the
it as that.
misinformation board has been dismantled.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So don't worry. Right. No, that was the government board, but go ahead.
I'm pretty sure Spotify didn't re-up President Obama's podcast.
They didn't.
Right. It's President Obama and Bruce Springsteen. And they're not getting a second season.
But they only did one episode.
Oh, they only did one?
Or maybe they did a couple, but yeah, okay.
All that to be said is like, I could certainly wrap myself around the news thinking about why my book didn't make a bestsellers list when it's easy to go after, in quotes, reality star, but like someone who I, in my ego-infested brain, deem not as worthy does hit the list.
Right.
But there is no rhyme or reason, inevitably. You just make the best thing you can and hope it connects.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, also that's part of it, but you're going to make the money back, and then this becomes sort of like a gravy train. Like, you'll get checks over the course of the rest of your life. People will buy the book. The audio version's always going to be available. So this was a nice entrance into the space, because I have a feeling you're going to write more.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I certainly, once the book, once all was said and done and it came out and I was like, okay, to your point, like, it's going to take me a while to earn back the advance. I'm like, okay, I'm done writing books.
Right.
But you never know. I mean, it was worthwhile. And I think there was a dichotomy in this, if I'm being truly honest, because I knew the book I wanted to write and I knew who I really was. And then I gave over sort of like the cover and the title to the people who sell books to do a bit of a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And be like, I know you think I'm the cheesy guy you grew up with. That's probably a part of me. But there's also this story and this history in my life, and I really want to share that too.
Right.
So this might just be my first foray into like breaking through, like cracking that image.
Yeah, and also I think that once you show them that you can sell books, generally they're interested in selling more. Mm-hmm. And I think you can probably expand on, there's probably another book that you would want to write now, once you wrap your head around writing it, that would be a book that you might be more into than this book, right? That's just the evolution of it, I think. Although I think about, like, I'll be able to write a second book at some point, but that book was also my way of kind of putting my past life to bed. Like, it was a hockey book. It was an autobiography about a guy that played hockey. And at that point, I didn't play hockey anymore. But that leads me, what was the process? Did you have a ghostwriter?
I didn't.
Okay, so you just wrote this.
Did you?
I had a co-writer. So a ghostwriter's different. I think a ghostwriter takes your verbal words and writes a book. Right. What I did was I wrote my book in my way that I write, which is basically freehand, no real paragraphs, and I just wrote, and I wrote it, and it was sort of autobiographical, but based on time, from a certain time to an end time. So it was very easy for me to just write the stories, and then I would hand it to Michael, my co-writer, and then he would form it into a book.
Sure.
So, but you didn't do that. You wrote it.
Yeah, I wrote it. I was lucky. I put together this proposal. They bought the proposal, and I've been good buddies with this guy, Ryan Holiday, for the last 10 years. He wrote, The Daily Stoic, Ego is the Enemy, all these like sort of massive bestseller books.
Yeah.
And sports teams are always having him come and speak to the players. The obstacle is the way. And so I called him and I was like, listen, I don't know the book term for this, but I know I need a producer. Like, I need someone that I can bother, send pages to, and you can tell me what's working, what isn't. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that for you.
Right.
So I paid him a little bit to sort of oversee the process, which I'm sure, literally I sold the book in June. My editor, Sydney, was like, go for it, have fun. And I didn't send her a book till June of next year. And she took about a month, but was like, I have notes, but this is certainly there. And there's no way the book would have been there had I not, like, every 3 weeks been sending it to Ryan and him telling me what sucks.
Yeah, it's nice, and I don't think of that as some people might go, oh well, like that's smart, right? Captains of their craft. If you have the access to a person like that to help you do something that you've never done and you're open to it, it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I'm fascinated, right? Because you've just worked with like these two titans, right? Like David O. Russell and Christopher Nolan, who truly seem like these one-man bands. And yet, to your point, I agree with you. I feel like the greats have like a council of elders, like who they're constantly getting good feedback from. Do you think people like Nolan or David O. Russell have those, or they're just the dudes?
No, I think that they do. I think that they have. I think that they have such a clear vision. Like it's like, think of a team. This is how I think of it. Great players, right? Superstars. I think that the guys that I look at that were real superstars, they all know, and they'll do it in a cliche way where like we couldn't have done it without a team, right? But I think that they know who their peers are and what they add to the process, and I know that they couldn't do it without those peers. Now, those peers reciprocating, I think they would say, we are just following the lead of a titan who understands exactly what he wants, and we're here to kind of just add on, just kind of like just put the seasoning.
Right.
Just come in and finish it, like all great chefs. Right. Somebody comes in and just finishes the plate and then pushes it out, but also adds something to the process. It's interesting. I want to get into that a little bit, but the journey of where you are today. Tell me a little bit about that and where you grew up, and then at a certain age you left and you came here. And I say here to Hollywood. Yeah. We're in Hollywood.
We are.
We're in West Hollywood. Where did that start and how did it kind of get shaped?
Basically, the abbreviated version is I grow up in New York City, single mom, only child. I get into stand-up comedy when I was 9 because I was fat. And it afforded me this sort of ability in which to control the energy of the room, to be special at that age when I was sort of constantly what I felt was at a disadvantage. I didn't like walking into a room, especially in the 90s. Like, people had no problem being like, why are you so fat? Yeah. Like, I would almost see a trigger in people's eyes when I'd walk into a room and I'd be like, they're going to comment on my weight. They just couldn't help it. Right. Some people, if it was almost out of love that they felt so helpless that they were like, maybe he doesn't know how fat he is. I need to shame him to do something. Yeah. So I was like, okay, funny works. Funny allows me to be at the adult table really quickly. So I started acting. I started doing stand-up comedy. And I booked this movie for Nickelodeon at 12 years old, which inevitably leads to this show called The Amanda Show, which flies me out to California. My mom and I'm 13. And basically the spinoff of that show was a show called Drake and Josh, which I did for 5 years as a kid, which is probably the thing I'll be most remembered for.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's interesting because the reason that you're here and the reason that we know each other is we just finished working on a movie together. And it's also funny, like, I think, like when I say that out loud, I think to myself, at some point I know, well, today I know that that's true, right? I do know that that's true because I saw what we were doing and it was real. But I also know that to a certain extent, and maybe not, I don't know, we could have been interchangeable with others, but I don't believe that. I guess what I'm saying is I'm still getting used to the fact of saying, like, we just worked on a movie together, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very new to me and I'm still just getting used to it. But I want to understand, you said that, probably the thing that I'm going to be known for. And at a certain point over the course of, I don't know how many days I was in New Mexico, you were there a lot longer than I was, but we walked into the hotel and there was a guy that works in the hotel. And I don't know how many days this guy had been jonesing to finally find the courage to say something to you. This guy worked at the hotel, nice guy. In my mind, he finally found the courage to say something to Josh like, hey man, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of what you did years ago when I was probably your age and I was watching it, but like, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Do you think had he been earning to say that to you for days earlier? Did you know that was coming, or did that just happen that day? And I just happened to be there.
I wonder. I mean, there are certainly people like that who are like in their 20s in a, Albuquerque's a city. It's not necessarily a major city. So like, basically I can guess, I can size people up pretty much and go like, oh, that's a Drake and Josh person.
Right.
Just because of the place, it's socioeconomic too. If they were just like TV people growing up and watched a lot of TV,
right? Which
I did, because like a lot of times it's like the primary source of entertainment,
right?
And it's also like something specific about Drake and Josh, and I'm trying to think of other things, and then like in a different way, like The Office. Like Steve Carell is one of our greatest actors, but to most people he will be Michael Scott no matter what.
Right.
Will Smith will be the Fresh Prince, and known for some other things now. But like inevitably it is what it is. And comparatively, like those are guys who I would aspire to have careers like that, and yet still they're known for this thing.
Right.
And why is that? Like, even if you like look at Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
If you asked 100 people, they wouldn't bring up SNL. They'd bring up Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
They'd bring up Billy Madison. Because there's something special about like a digestible, slightly family-friendly experience. And Drake and Josh, just like whatever triggers those things in your brain, Drake and Josh was one of those shows.
Right. Okay. I understand and I agree with you. What I want to say, and I want to, so to give everybody an idea, basically, Josh was on this TV show. You guys all know what it was. It was a long time ago. There was a period between that show and where we are today where you continued to work, did a lot of voiceover stuff. You were working. You also went into this sort of survival mode with the Vine videos, and that kind of was spawned off of maybe this transition period, right? It just so happened that I think that transition period was, 10 years, 12 years, up until today? Okay, so this is what I'm saying. So, and I want to talk about acting because I don't really get to talk about acting that often with actors. Do you not think that you are going to be remembered from a West Wing type show when it's all said and done versus Josh and Drake or whatever? What's it called?
Yeah, Drake and Josh.
Drake and Josh.
Should have been Josh and Drake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I know
I
you
agree.
get it. I don't know. President, funny enough, to bring it back to President Obama, he'll be the theme of this ep. He talked about Drake and Josh in one of his final speeches, and somebody calls me. He's like, I just sent you a clip, watch it. And Barry is talking about, I don't know, it must have been a slow news day, and he's like, folks, he's like, Michelle, I know what the kids like. They like SpongeBob. They like Josh and Drake. And I was like, he said my name first.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, now finally.
Oh, he said it wrong.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, finally.
Well, that means it should have been Josh and Drake because I also said it. Drake and Josh. It just doesn't. It's the wrong cadence. Okay.
The internet's going to be up in arms.
I understand that. I understand that.
To your point, you know what? I don't know. And I think because to my point, right? Like, again, Will Smith is a funny example in these times, but like he won the Oscar, right? Like he, in theory, attained the height that maybe we would all love to do, just like to check that box, right? We got it.
Yeah.
But like people are not going to stop talking about Fresh Prince.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay.
But you get remembered for all of it, maybe.
You get
in a perfect world.
Right. What I'm trying to wrap your head around and my head around is are you now ready? Okay, so you just finished, I think arguably probably a role in your most important movie to date, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's safe to say.
Yeah.
With the best sort of cast, peers, people in the business, right?
Yes.
Was this casting in this movie a pivotal moment for you up until this point? Do you think that this casting is not a rebirth because you didn't die, but is this now the birth of the next evolution of your career as an actor?
It's a really great question. I think about what you were mentioning a few minutes ago. First thing I would say is more will be revealed. Like, I don't know the answer to that. And I would say, like, the way you said, like, I'm trying to digest this idea of saying I just finished working on a movie. Like, first of all, it's let's just talk turkey here. It's a pretty small part, right? So the optics of it are incredible. Like, but obviously there's, like you get given the opportunity and then you also kind of have to shine in that opportunity.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, but the other thing about that is, if the words on the paper, we say it's a small part. One, I don't think that there's any small parts in any of his movies. Sure. I think that all of his movies, everyone in them are in them for a specific reason, and there's no fat, there's no wasted space.
Sure.
It's a moment to one, shine, but also service the story in a story of absolute heavyweights. So yes,
totally.
in theory, okay, small, but not small. And what I'm saying is what it signifies for you and how you move forward now in this industry that you've been in a long time.
It's the fascinating thing about what we do, right? Is because it is sales, even if you make the biggest sale of your career.
Yeah.
Right? So here we sit, and this is a familiar feeling for me in the dog days of May, which tends to be a slow month in our business.
Yeah.
And me going like, there's a lot of data to support that things are great.
Yeah.
What a fucking experience. I mean, besides meeting great people like you, like just, I feel like I can speak for both of us, like something we'll remember forever, an honor to be a part of.
Yeah.
And
a feeling also that has so much weight when you finish, I think, from just personally from a confidence standpoint, and also maybe a little bit of a hunger standpoint. It's like, not to say you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but to be in a situation like that and to be able to compete in a situation like that gives you great confidence.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still, and I think it will take time to digest that he picked me.
Yeah.
Right? Because to your point, my mind wants to rationalize, well, it was a couple scenes, it was a couple lines. A lot of people could have done it, like that's what my brain wants to do. But
yeah, but it was also like 4 or 5 weeks of work. So part of that is just the structure of the story and
totally.
But you were there for a big portion of the filming of the movie.
Yeah, and that's my brain wanting to take away the win from me.
Right.
That's like that's that sabotage.
Why is that? Because in this business, that's sort of maybe a good a good trait to have to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, like all assets become defects when they're just excessive, right? So to your point, yes, like to not get too hot on yourself, to stay hungry, to not be like, I'm going to turn down everything unless Fincher calls now. Like, certainly. But yeah, I overdo it and it becomes, a defect. And
right.
so, yeah, I think like there is a part of me that just has to say, even though it's May, and this feeling as I sit here today going, I don't know what the rest of the year looks like.
Right.
Because it's not like when you get these things where all of a sudden they go, and now here's the next 7 months.
Of course.
You're just kind of like, so I'm like dealing with that familiar feeling, but also going like, wow, I am coming off of a pretty great, I mean, it's like, it's like The Mob, right? So, Nolan, Fincher, someone of that ilk vouches for you. This is a good fella. He's good. This one's good. It's like suddenly everyone's like, oh, he's
a friend
good.
of mine.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Okay, from a personal standpoint, did it reinvigorate a feeling that maybe you were suppressing to service some of the other lanes that you were servicing while you didn't have the option to service the lane that you really probably ultimately want to do, which is be on set and make great fucking art, right? So did that reinvigorate? And I put words in your mouth a little bit by saying maybe to a certain extent you were suppressing those feelings. Do you have the feeling now of like, I want to be a fucking great actor today and I want to be on set on great projects as much as I can moving forward? Like, are you ready for that now?
Yes, but I don't know if that feeling ever went away over the last 10 years.
How did you manage it?
When I was 23, I'll never forget, or 24, I had sort of come off a good amount of work, but also had a couple things that really didn't work, and I was very unsure.
Yeah.
And as you know, when actors aren't working, agents and managers go get them something called generals, which I don't do anymore because I know it's a waste of time.
Right.
But I know that it's an agent or manager calling their friend who's an executive at whatever studio, what have you, and saying, meet Sean, meet Josh, make them feel welcome. And if you have anything, keep them in mind.
See, I completely agree with you. I think generals to me are like my Super Bowl because I just and when was the last time you had a general?
Yeah, years.
Okay, so I think your general now is a much different presence than it was 6 or 8 years ago.
Right.
Okay, but sorry.
But I remember I wound up having a general with the president of film at Fox, a guy named Alex Young at the time. And God bless this guy. I don't know what he saw in me, but I sat down and he starts talking. He goes, can I just give you advice? And I said, yeah. He's like, I would suggest you spend the next 10 years of your life living and not worrying about becoming a famous actor or your next job. He's like, I can never put a $50 million movie on your shoulders right now. He's like, you're not ready.
Right.
He's like, and by the way, it's because you're a boy.
Yeah.
He's like, and no one wants to watch a boy.
Yeah.
He's like, we want to watch men. You're going to do your best work from like 30 onward.
Right.
So I would implore you to not stress.
Wow.
And go out and live and have experience and like build your life.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I was worried about money, so I didn't really take his advice.
Right.
But it stuck with me.
Yeah.
So.
But you did to a certain extent because you didn't just stay dormant. You didn't just say, fuck this, I'm going to go become a school teacher. You found sort of another lane inside of the big business as a whole, right?
Right. But I think that throughout the last 5 or 6 years, when I got really popular on social media, when it unlocked this great revenue stream, this freedom I'd never experienced, but also the optics of it were troubling because people were like, well, are you this guy now? And is this did he fall off? The only thing that separated me from the pact of like child actors who go to social media because it's all they can do is I was in acting class the whole time. I never turned down an audition.
Right.
I never stopped working, and I never resented the business going, I mean, I'm sure I did resent it on some level, but I never said like, F that, I deserve better.
Yeah.
I was like, I will still fight while also making these corny videos, believing that if I am the right guy for it, no great director is going to be like, he was really brilliant in his audition, but like, have you seen his stupid Instagram videos?
Right.
Like, I just don't think that happens.
No, I agree with you. Well, by the way, you've proven that. And I think it's so interesting. I think everything does happen for a reason. And was this role, as big or as small as it was, even more important for signifying that to everyone else? Not just yourself, but to the industry that, and you said it earlier, like when the Dawn sort of vouches for you, everyone goes, oh, fuck, okay. They start to take notice. Yeah. But it's amazing that he said that executive said that to you, because it's kind of what I was thinking earlier. Like, I think it is just starting for you. I mean, I think that everything that you've done up until today was sort of just kind of like a light warm-up. How old are you?
35.
I mean, one, you're going to be able to work for 40 years. That's why I say the West Wing thing. Like, okay, so enough of the theoretical thought of it. What do you want next? What is the next move? Like, do you want to do, because I guess do you want to do movies or do you want to do television? And what is that? What do you want to play? Who do you want to represent?
I think if I'm being honest, and through some feigned humility and also just realistic expectation, like, I started to get away from that question just because I was like, well, I never could have planned it up until this point, so I don't really know. But if I'm being honest about like what I really want is, I want a great show that shoots in LA so I can be around my family.
Yeah.
And like know that 4 months a year I'm doing something dope. And if in the time off I can pick up a great movie or something, it is what it is. But
right.
The dream would be like a Succession that shoots in LA.
Right.
And that would be incredible.
So when you think about not specific characters, but like where are you today from a role standpoint? Like, are you no longer the best friend? Are you now use a West Wing as an example? Like, are the gravitas of like, do you want to be in Suits? Do you think that I don't know. I get it. You want to be on a great show, right? Of course you want to be on a great show. You want to be on a great show that has great writing.
Right.
You want to be on a great show that doesn't take any episodes off, because do you think being on a Nolan set and seeing the level of like essentially the top is as good as it can get? I don't think anything can get better than that. He's probably going to win numerous Academy Awards.
Oh yeah, he's going to crush it.
We all of us kind of had some laughter about that, and I guess, where do you find that, and how will you decide what's the one?
I don't really know.
And do you think you'll be able to will the right one onto your lap, or do you rely on sort of bounces or luck?
I think,
like you said, Succession, right? So that's a great example. So that's a great example. There's a few shows that are similar. Like you said Succession, you didn't say Yellowstone. Because I do think there's a big difference between a Succession and a Yellowstone.
And what do you? I don't watch Yellowstone, but obviously I know the idea of it. What is the difference?
I think that the difference is, it might have been the worst example, because I think some of early Yellowstone was like great television. I think Yellowstone is still a TV show. I don't think it's Succession is sort of a mini movie in every single episode. There's something a little bit different still.
Right.
I don't think you win Golden Globes for Yellowstone. I think you win Golden Globes for Succession.
Right. There's a little of that TV gloss over Yellowstone.
Yes, and I think Sheridan's in such a weird, interesting category where he writes like, if you got your sides for a Yellowstone episode, you might have 10 lines, 10 scenes.
Right.
And you might be Kevin Costner. Like, very minimal dialogue. There's not a lot of back and forth. It's just, he writes like it's a tennis. It's back and forth, and you're just hitting sort of big forehands back and forth.
Right.
So to me, I think obviously I'd be like, that would be incredible and what an unbelievable experience. But to get those muscles fucking flexing and really to act and become something, I think Succession's a better example of that than Yellowstone.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking is, and this is kind of behind baseball, behind the curtain. What do they say? Inside baseball. Inside baseball. What are the steps now, right? Because how do you're getting auditions, you're seeing stuff that you're auditioning for that's probably stuff that's okay, and then there's the good stuff. Are you maneuvering? Are you pressing on your agents? Do you say like, I'm fucking ready? Because the hard thing too is they weren't there. They haven't seen the movie yet. They weren't on set. They didn't see being around that greatness. So it's hard for them to really, but they could hear that in your voice. Like, have you said that to them yet?
No, and I don't. I'm very much like, and sometimes to my detriment, and we talked about this too, how you're like, you can be more proactive with casting directors, and sometimes I just like infantilize myself and just feel like king baby and everything should come to me. But I just know what's in my power. So I go, what ideas do I have? Like, I've had a show in development before that I wrote. So like, what can I develop on my own and maybe get a really smart writer friend who's in between gigs to like come on as a producer to just like, I'll do the legwork because no one wants to do anything for free, but maybe they'll give me notes. And then stay, you know, whether it's like these other income streams, whether it's podcasting, like so that I don't have to feel desperate. So I know that I've got that. And then inevitably it just, you know, especially now because of the pandemic, we're putting auditions on tape. Like my agent saw my Oppenheimer audition. She saw like for the things that really matter, she watches it. So she knows where I'm at.
Right.
Like, and she would tell me straight up, like, this killed it. This was fine. Like, so I think that's good to keep them inspired. But I also think to a certain extent, like, we're a number, right? And they're in the wholesale game and we're in the retail game because we're one of one. We have one client and they have 40.
Right. Do you think that part of that mindset is a little bit of how you managed to not go crazy for the last 10 years while
Certainly.
Yeah.
But I also don't know, like, it's easy for me to look at Timothy Chalamet, right? He's like the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he's younger than me, but like, who's just like checking the boxes. Wes Anderson and, you know, Dune and all these like the dopest shit. But like, it looks great in theory. I don't know. I mean, it's probably great in practice too.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, I asked that because I feel like, I feel like a part of you also needs to do that. I think the waiting and the, like, your team has seen where you're at now and they can definitely feel it on their own. But I also, and I don't know, maybe I'm just talking for myself, but I think that it's okay, one, to admit that we love to do this, right? And I think the other part of that is it's okay to really kind of step up and say, fuck, I want this now. I want this now to start. And I don't know.
What is it for you? What's that version look like for you?
I mean, I think definitely coming off of this one, like I remember that Monday, I got my agents and I got my agent and my manager on the phone, two managers, sort of. This is Kyle Forgeard from the Nelk Boys. Should
Go
I
for
answer?
it. Yeah.
Should I answer? Hey.
Oh, live on your podcast?
Yeah. Dude, this is the modern world we live in. Are you,
I was gonna ask for your lock.
I think you got it. Listen, everything's telling me that they can't sweep them. That Florida has to win one game. They have to win one fucking game. I can't, just for their own personal pride. But does Tampa say come out? I think you have to take Florida. I think they have to.
What about your boy Cooch, though?
Cooch is the king at taking a game off. Is this going to be the game he takes off in the series? I would put my money on it. I would. I mean, you got a 3 here. Yeah, the other thing, like psychologically, you got to understand. Those guys in Florida, the guys on the team in Florida, they all know that they're done, right? But do they think that they can win one? Maybe this is the one. And Tampa knows they've won, and if they take one off, everything says you got to take Florida and you hit it hard. That's what I'm saying. All right? All right. Jimmy, we got to talk, buddy. We're gonna schedule it. We're going to get that worked out. All right? I miss you guys. All right. See you, boys. Interesting, like the Nelk boys. Just, do you know who they are?
Yeah.
Like, because you've been in this game since the beginning of it, and now you're seeing all of these sort of groups kind of explode.
Right.
Did you, and you were part of one. What was yours called?
What?
With David and
David, when I made videos with David Dobrik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have like a name for yourselves?
His name for his crew was the Vlog Squad.
The Vlog Squad.
Yes.
So you were a member?
I don't know if I was.
Or-
I think I was a recurring cast member.
Right.
For about a year, we shot a lot of videos. For
Right.
sure.
Do you think that you do have the formula for understanding what works and what doesn't work?
I think so. I mean, when you watch someone like, who's the number one Nelk boy?
Kyle.
And then
There's Steve will do it.
Steve will do
He's
it.
kind of blowing YouTube away with just spending money and going crazy.
crushing it.
And then they have Salim, who's starting to golf, and he's also a minority in the group.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting, eclectic group.
Yeah, I mean him, Dobrik, Mr. Beast, Logan, like these guys, they're oracles. They understand it. They're playing.
Yeah.
It's almost worthy of. Granted, like it's hard to know what their craft is. Like when you talk about stars in a sport and whatnot, like it's very clear. Like this person is a craftsman at hockey.
Yeah.
At their specific thing, and it's hard to sort of disseminate. Like, what is it is someone like Logan? Is it just ambition? Is that their superpower?
Right.
But yeah, they understand these things on a different level. I don't think it's about money for those people. Like, I think it's about playing life like a video game, and they want to win it.
Right. And do you think that because you probably, well, I think it's safe to say you are an actor and you want to act more than you want to make content for online platforms.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's probably why you didn't take the next step with all the early success, with all the Vine success. You kind of, I think you managed it and you sort of put it into a channel where it's still producing income. It's manageable. It hasn't taken over your entire life.
Right.
But you're ready for that next move in that other direction.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I certainly have always tried to do both, and I think, but it's lucky. Like for instance, we were working in Albuquerque on something we were dying to be on.
Yeah.
And then everything is either shooting probably in Albuquerque, New Orleans, or Atlanta, wherever, Rhode Island now, wherever there's a tax credit.
Yeah.
Now, if there was a TV show that I wasn't dying to do in a part of the country that I wasn't dying to be in, I would pick social media.
Yeah.
And that's like the greatest, the fact that I have that, I never had that.
Right.
That was what made me lean in 2014 when I got my first PayPal wire transfer of $5,000 from some company that I wasn't exactly sure was on the level.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, it was a dating app, but I was like, where's this money coming from?
Right.
But I was like, oh, I remember my wife wanted to go, her boss, she was working for this company, and her boss and her husband, they were going to Bali. And she was like, I'd love to go. Like, they invited us to show us around. Like, they're going to, pay for the hotels and stuff. We would just need airfare. Now, up until that point, I was like, I can't go to Bali. Like, I'm going to be gone 2 weeks. What if I get an audition? What if in 6 months from now, money's tight and I feel like an idiot that I spent 10 grand going to Indonesia?
Right.
And then I remember it was June and I got that $5,000 wire transfer. And then they said, how about one video a week for the rest of the month? And I called my girlfriend at the time and I said, let's go to Bali. Like, now it sounds like, oh, cool, like, you know, rich people problems. But what it really was like this freedom. Like,
Right.
the first time that at 29 or whatever I was, that I could be like, oh, I can go on vacation and feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
To that point, I had been at the mercy of the business at every turn.
Yeah.
And that's like I'm interested to see, because this is sort of like, this has been a second act for you as far as like with acting, and the fact that you're crushing it this hard, this quickly is amazing. But like, have you seen, like, there are other actors like who have been doing it since they were like in their early 20s, who are now late 30s, 40s, who never get married, they never buy a place, and they've made okay money, but because their life is so up and down, they're like, I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, well, you can't even get a mortgage if you walked into a bank and they were like, but no. So I want to. Okay, so I get on the phone with my agents and managers, right?
Yeah.
And I say to I say to them, and I feel like I've had this conversation with them a few other times, like definitely after the Russell movie, I had the conversation with them, but the conversation was interesting because I went through a terrible experience on that movie. I mean, I went through the greatest terrible experience you could ever go through. And now when I sit here today, it's
Have
wild.
Have you talked about it? Can you?
Yeah, I can talk about it.
I mean, because you're planting that seed. People want to know why.
Yeah, so when I look at it now, it was the perfect experience at the perfect time. Like all these fucking, it's like a Tetris game. And I didn't play Tetris when I was growing up, but all of these things are falling into place at the perfect time. So the Russell movie was with my scene was with Christian Bale. And I got cast 2 days before the scene shot. I was given sides. He made me audition in the car, and like I was in the car, and I was driving, and I pulled the car over. A friend of mine is his producer, so it was just a fucking solid, my buddy looking out for me, and I got it, right? I get to set, and that morning they hand me the sides, because you know you get the sides on a smaller version. What's like the technical term for that?
Yeah, sides are the smaller version. It's like 1/4 of a normal page
right
size.
And
yeah.
those are the sides you get on the day of shooting.
Yes.
Right, so they're totally different. The dialogue's completely different, and it's more dialogue than I thought. It was a real scene. It was a real scene with the best actor maybe of our generation,
right.
With one of the best directors. And there was also 3 other actors in the scene basically as extras, Chris Rock and Ed Begley.
Ed Begley Jr.
Yeah. John David Washington. There were a bunch of heavy hitters. Very similar to Oppenheimer, where you could have been in a scene with a fucking Academy Award winner that didn't have a line in the scene, right? Anyways, I didn't know my lines. I knew my lines, but I couldn't get through the whole thing. It was a hard fucking monologue. Bale's beside me. We start at point A and we walk to point B, and it's about 100-foot walk, and we have dialogue the whole entire time. I was remembering portions of it, and then I would forget portions, and then I would remember portions. And sometimes when I forgot, I would just say fuck, and my head would explode. Ugh. And Russell would be screaming like, keep going. And at one point, I think when I said fuck me, Sean, I said fuck me, Sean, and Bale, he visibly lost it. Like he was laughing so much. And I think for some reason that day, it all worked out. In between every single take, Bale ran the lines with me for the whole entire day. In between lunch, the whole time. Like he carried me from the start to the finish. And he didn't know who I was, but he must have felt something from me, right? It was so when I had that conversation with my managers that Monday, I was like, I'm fucking ready. Okay. I'm ready. I just went through an experience that I don't even know if they're going to be able to use what they shot. I don't know if they'll be able to use it. And they are going to be able to use it because it's so messy, and that's what David loves about it, from what I've been told. But when I had the conversation after this one, I said, now I really know what it feels like, because and I'll tell you this, it was the first time that I was on a set and in a scene with actors where I felt that thing of what happens when you actually click with somebody. Like, I felt that I was connected with the two actors, and there was an energy that I had never felt before. It felt real on the highest level of the high. And I explained that to them, and I think that I know that they realized what I was saying and the truth behind it. And then I also know that they could see what happened afterwards, which was every audition tape since then. I think I could book every role that I've auditioned for. Not only do I think I could book it, but I think that the auditions that I've been putting down, in my mind, I say to myself, they have to be so much better than everyone else's, because I'll never win a tie. I'll never win a close one. Right. Like, I have to decimate everyone. Whoever I'm auditioning against, my audition tape has to be so much better and so much stronger and more unique. That's the only way I'm going to get jobs now.
Right.
And it's funny, what you did was you found this alternate thing to kind of quell the darkness, the downtime, which I've been dealing with for like the last 7 years since I started trying to figure out how to do this. And in my mind, I say to myself, these are the acting gods. Like, they're making me wait. Like, all of these experiences are happening to get me to a point where I can just start doing this, but do it in a way where, like, I get to love doing it, and it's not like the end of the world was a piece of the puzzle, but it like, I can fucking do it. Like, I want to be on set for weeks and months, right. Like, go on a run, right? And create something. My point in telling you this is that I think they heard me on the other end of the line, and actually in person, because not only did I followed up with the conversation, but like, then I made my agent Dean come and work out with me, and then we had the conversation again. So I take everything to the fucking 10th degree with it. Like, I push so hard on all of it, because, and I guess, I don't know why I do it, because I need to do it, and I want to do it, and I'm also ready. But this time that I've been waiting has been torture.
Yeah.
And I embrace the torture.
Right.
Kind of. I mean, are you okay to admit that it is shitty to wait and to wait?
It's torturous, which is why I said, like, here we sit in May in sort of the afterglow of this incredible thing we did, and yet the nature of our business is you just don't know what's coming next. And I'm almost trying to do the opposite, and yet it seems as though we're going for the same thing, which is like, I'm trying not to call my agent and manager at all.
Yeah.
Like, and to be okay with like because I'll tell you what, I was traveling so much back and forth for my wife and my kid during this time, and it was really busy, and it was just a great first couple months, and I was like dying for some time off. And now that I have it, I have no idea what to do with it.
Right.
But I'm also trying to be like, how okay can I be without getting that phone call where they go, got a couple things cooking.
Right.
Like, can I be okay just being like, yeah, we'll see.
Right.
Because the data suggests everything has been okay to this point. I haven't changed anything. I'm still working as hard. So there's enough data to suggest that it'll still be okay. But can the difference be I don't sweat it as much?
Right.
I don't know.
Do you think, let me ask you, from that experience, what did you pull from it from an acting standpoint?
I think...
Because you've been on a lot of sets over a long period of time, right? Yeah. Not all of them have been on that level. That was like as premier as it gets,
yes.
Because what's interesting, it's like if you're an NHL hockey player, you're an NHL hockey player. So you play with other NHL players. But if you're an actor, you can be an actor in situations that, well, you're not with the best.
Sure.
Right? Which
Yeah.
is very interesting. Like if you play sports and you're the best, you're always with the best. In this business, sometimes you're not with the best. In this movie, you were with the best. What did it do for you personally?
I think to your point, like the few times, like I did this movie called The Whackness with Ben Kingsley when I was 20, and that was like my first time working with a great. And then I had like 2 or 3 scenes in this movie with Pacino when I was 27.
What movie was that?
It's called Danny Collins.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy cast.
Yeah.
And it was, again, I played a valet, but they were like, your 2 scenes are with him. I'm like, enough said. So getting to do that and now this, to your point, like when you get to work with these people that you look up to and suddenly you realize that it's not alchemy, it's not a magic trick. Like they're really good and prepared.
Yeah.
They make you better. And so be present, trust the work. And if you've done the work, like you deserve to be there. And that's what's great is when you can recognize the language.
Right.
Like they're not talking in some alien thing that I don't get. It's just the best version of the language that I've been speaking my whole life.
Right. And will that influence some of the decisions that you make moving forward? Like, I guess, you could be on a TV show that's a TV show, right? You could be on a network television show that's not West Wing,
Sure.
where you are working consistently. But I guess, are you craving those Nolan situations more than the security and the money now? Where do you go?
Having the childhood I had, I'm always going for security and money first
Yeah.
on some level. And now that I have a wife and kid, it's not even a question. And I take care of my mom, and it's like an honor. But
And that part of that is the story in the book too. There's a lot of that journey of
oh yeah.
yeah.
And
yeah.
it kept me rooted. It kept me from completely, going over a cliff with drugs and alcohol and eating and the whole thing. So I don't begrudge that. I would look at people like David Dobrik or the guys that, the Nelk boys. Like you look at people at that age when they have no one to worry about.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be to their detriment and to their downfall, but they can take these massive swings.
Yeah.
Right? Because what do they have to worry about?
Yeah.
And then, sometimes to terrible outcomes and sometimes to extremely, winning outcomes.
Right.
And I think I've always had to be much more secured, or I guess I would say I've always had to be much more reserved with the chances that I took in my career.
Right.
Because I have other people who I have to worry about.
Now, from a confidence standpoint, the working with Pacino, that was 7 years ago, right? 7 years is a long time. The level of confidence coming off of the movie you just came off of, does that now, what did you say to yourself when you were analyzing your performance? Did you think to yourself I was good? Did you think they were really good? Just give me.
It's funny, right? Because there have been times where I've watched myself and been like, that a boy, great, really, really good.
Right.
More times than not, I'm like, ugh, I just get skeeved out by it and I can't.
Yeah.
It was funny because I go to this acting class every week and we do it over Zoom right now as sort of a byproduct of the pandemic. And so she'll record your scene and send it to you. And then either you've accomplished the scene and she'll say, okay, new scene next week, or work on it, come back, take my notes. And a lot of times the next week she'll be like, did you watch the Zoom? Did you see what I was talking about? And I'm like, I can't. It's too painful.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something in me, and I don't really watch anything I do anymore. If I do, it's in weird start stops. I'm just watching my performance. I can't. I can't even. So yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if I'll see Oppenheimer. I just don't know if I can.
Well, of course you'll see it. Of course you'll see it.
I'll see it, but
of course you'll see it, and that's sort of what I'm asking is you'll see it because you were surrounded by the best.
That's true.
So there's not going to be, You were at your best.
There's no way I'm like the one sore thumb sticking out of.
No, you would have known. One you would have known, and we kind of laughed about that, like how interesting it is being on his set and you're craving for some sort of, what would you call it? Like, what's the word?
Validation.
Right? Yeah, it's validation. I think if you're not on his set, if he's not saying anything to you, that's probably a good thing.
That's right.
That probably means that, I mean, you were there, you observed it, you were there a while, you saw a lot of the big boys and girls doing scenes. Like,
yeah.
What did you feel like watching it?
I tried to be like really respectful of people's eye lines and whatnot, but I just wanted to. The thing that I found really fascinating about watching these greats is how small you can be with great writing and a great director and really good audio. I remember once my buddy was working with Denzel in that movie Flight.
Yeah.
And he was like, there was one time where Denzel said a line I almost wanted to say what? Like, but I think the greats, like, they know that they don't have to push.
Yeah.
And that if there's a good microphone, it's going to pick up everything.
Right.
So I love to watch how little people can be. That really, because I'm like the shtick machine. I'm constantly giving like forward energy trying to get you to love me.
Right.
And when someone's like sitting back on their heels and can like take a deep breath in the middle of a scene and say, I did the work and I know it's good.
Yeah.
I can't take my eyes off it.
Yeah. And I guess that was kind of the, I mean, I could just sit there and watch Nolan all day just being.
Yeah.
Just doing his thing, just working. But it was very interesting to see some of the, that was the first time I was in an intimate situation with actors that were on that level. And there's definitely the level of preparation and the level of, there's something different. You know, I'm sure it's like seeing a great player. Like I could tell, sometimes I say to him, I can see a guy, I just need to see a guy in his equipment and I can tell what type of player he is by how he walks down the hallway.
And what are you seeing?
There's a
swagger.
There's a gait. I can tell the way that his ankles move when he walks in the skates. I can tell by the way his equipment's on. It's like a feeling, you know what I mean? And I think that there was an energy off of the peers that we were working with that it's just that level. There's something that radiates off of them because they're so fucking prepared and so good.
Yeah.
And they don't push. And it's funny, you think about this, like, they don't push. That's really what this whole thing comes down to. They don't push, and when they say things, they're grounded. And it's really rooted in something, and it's there's no push.
Yeah, there's no push. And I think, but what do you it's like we're on a set like that with those great actors. But what's it like watching like a great, like if you looked at Ovechkin or someone who's a great who's on a team that can't support them and then on a team that can. What's that difference like?
Yeah, I mean there's a big difference because one, you don't have that fireball of energy because there's weak links.
Right.
So that tornado can't fucking spin all the way because it hits certain parts of the team that they just can't support it. Mm-hmm. And but you know what? Sometimes, and I think in sports you have the ability to push. That's when Ovechkin does so much more that he carries those guys with him.
Right.
And I think in acting, it's tough to do that. I think, how do you do that? You it's hard, right? You can't. But that's what's interesting about sports is that those greats can just outperform everyone around them but still help them, which is very interesting. There's so many similarities, and there's so many things that are so different, you know, like the patience that this business takes, and the versus in sports, you can just be like, patience is a virtue, but you're also doing it at such a high level that like no one would really recognize the patience because everyone's going 100 miles an hour. The patient part was just in the gray area. It was like minutia that you can see, but it's not really tangible.
But it's also like, you know, there's stats. Like you cannot, it's irrefutable. It's, you know, acting's subjective. What you like, I'm allowed to not like. And that's maddening.
Yeah,
like,
but
you cannot be a LeBron guy, but you can't argue his stats.
Right, but don't you think that the movie we were just on, there were I was never in a situation where I thought, oh, that could be better.
No. I mean, I think it's pretty bulletproof, and yet inevitably, like, even movies that, you know, like if something has 95 or 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, it means there was some reviewer who was like, didn't click with me.
Right.
And you don't know what they brought to the watching of that movie or TV show that put them in that place. I mean, you know, you've written a book. I can't help but Google reviews sometimes, or like people writing their own reviews, and sometimes you'll read something and I'll be like, who are you mad at? Because it's not me.
Yeah, well, speaking of reviews, you have a 4.9 on Audible, and you have a 5 out of 5 on Target. I don't know. I say to people, you buy the book if you like reading books, right? If you don't like reading books, like I'm all about audiobooks now because I ride a motorcycle, so I wear one earpiece.
Really?
I don't wear both. And I listen to audiobooks now. Like I listened to the whole audiobook American Prometheus, which is the Oppenheimer story. Did you read the book?
I did. I mean,
You read it?
I read half of it.
Yeah.
I did.
You read it? You turned pages?
Oh, I turned the pages.
Wow.
And it was fun to sort of chat with some of the actors throughout who were like us, who were sort of like part of the bigger ensemble, because everyone was like, yeah, I got 80 pages, 120, 290.
Yeah.
30.
It's a long book.
It was rare to hear someone be like, yeah, I got through the whole.
I got through the whole thing because I listened to it.
Right.
Took like a week and a half.
Yeah,
but
that's the way to do it.
the whole thing. I think that I don't want to fuck up your process, but I think you need to identify. Like I think there's projects out there right now that you need to be in or on. I'm a little bit against this. You're just going to let it come to you. I think that because you're sort of reinventing yourself on a certain level. I mean, you're breaking through from what you were and who we all know, and who the guy in the hotel that worked at the hotel identifies you as,
Sure.
right? He wasn't coming up to you as a fan because of what you did in Oppenheimer. He hasn't seen the fucking movie yet.
Right.
He hasn't seen what you're doing yet in this second stage. I want you to I don't know.
I think you make a great point. It's not unlike things that my wife has said to me.
What does she say?
I mean, she says similar things about like,
Tell me.
well, how do I say it?
Because these are interesting conversations. Like, you guys are talking about it, right? And
Well,
part of what makes you great is her.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, but it's the great sad cry of every out of work actor in moments of their life. Like, I mean, you can probably pinpoint, a dozen of them over the last couple of years where I've been like, what's going on and why not this and blah, blah, blah. And her thing has always been like, well, you've kind of the beauty or sort of like the catch-22 of the optics of you is like you've benefited from all this money that you've been able to make from social media, and it kept you relevant, just not in the way you want it.
Right.
And she's like, and so I'm sure there's a big part of the business that look at you as the internet guy.
Yeah.
And like, so what can you do?
Right.
And in the same respect, my agent, who I love, who I've been with since I'm 16 and gives no fucks. I remember once I went in there And I was like, I need to talk to you. Like, I just felt like this is like my mid-20s
Yeah.
when I was a little bit more, but probably the bad egocentric version of it was like, why aren't I getting the opportunities at XYZ? And I remember I sit down and like what I was really looking for was some reassurance.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, we're on the track. It's going to work out. Just keep going.
Right.
And she literally looked at me and said, well, I'm doing my job. And like, I don't know what that meant other than apparently I wasn't doing mine. Now, I don't know what that means, but she was like, I'm not going to sit here and, do this mental masturbation with you.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. And also, I've also heard the term like actors fire their agents because they can't fire themselves.
Uh-huh.
So it's a long-winded story of saying that there have been moments where I've been like, well, maybe, I need to, just
clean house.
start anew, clean house,
Right.
and like, even though I love my representation, it's, as you know, it's so rare to be with people 15 plus years.
Yeah.
And my, a buddy of mine, a great actor, his name's Brian Garrity, another like journeyman actor like us. Like,
Yeah.
and he said, is there anything you've seen recently on TV or in movies that you feel like you should have gone out for that wasn't like, obviously was offer only?
Right.
I was like, not really. He's like, so you pretty much get all the auditions that you hear other people are going out for?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And he's like, then what else are they supposed to do for you?
Right.
They're just there to get you auditions,
Yeah.
and then you
That's it. Really.
kill it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Um,
So that's kind of that, like, as long as I'm getting the opportunity, then it's all on me, right?
yeah. You just booked something? Are you on? Did you just?
I just did this little indie, my buddy Brian Greenberg's movie
Oh,
called
yeah.
Junction. Yeah, just like 2 days on it, but it was great. Great
Right.
experience.
Yeah. What Greenberg? Like, there's another interesting, like, I don't know. I don't want to say that. I mean, where the fuck has he been for the last 6 years? After Once Upon a Time in America, or
Yeah.
like he should have been. I don't know. Did he not want to work?
I don't know, another journeyman guy. I think he just did the new, great guy, had a kid, has 2 kids, got married. So I think there was a part of him that was like, I want to have a full life.
Right.
And I think he just did a Eddie Murphy movie with Jonah Hill.
Right.
Like, again,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, it comes in phases. I also feel like you can always control what phase you're in. And I think that I don't know. I think that I'm excited about the future for you, and I might just call and remind you every once in a while, like, Josh, let's go through everything. What is coming up? What's shooting?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you know what's shooting? Like,
so-
how do you do it for yourself?
So I torture my agents and managers, and I get the grid sent to me.
You do.
Yeah,
Man, you are a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, which is kind of. Am I?
Do you read Deadline every day?
Not so much, because I'm so far ahead of deadline. Like,
I love it.
so I get every pilot sent to me, regardless of whether.
Awesome.
And there's always a conversation like, why can't I read for Haggerty? And they're like, well, Haggerty's black and he's gay. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll let me read for Haggerty.
Right.
And then I don't read for Haggerty, but whatever. I know everything that's in production or about to go into production. I know everything that's casting currently. And I'll read it, and I'll fight and hound for it.
That's an athlete's mentality in a good way.
Yeah, I think so. Part of it, but it is also torturous. But I've found a way to embrace the torture. Like, I know it's just all part of the process.
Were you ever like, I'm talking about it in the heyday, like you're in New York, you're skating in Madison Square Garden, and you guys are up 2 goals, and you're like, one day I'm going to be an actor. Like, there's a part of me that wishes I was on set right now. Like, were there ever like whiffs of that, even when you were?
No.
When did the acting thing come?
Just when I was done, I was done playing. I had just started I was like 6 months into the process of writing the book, so that's all I would do. I'd wake up in the morning, I would write for a couple hours, and my buddy Peter Berg was directing Patriots Day, and he's like, come to Boston. I took the train to Boston. I had one line in the movie, and Wahlberg was in the scene, and like I got to see it, and I just fucking, when they said action, it was the closest feeling that I'd ever had to standing at center ice, like fighting or after you'd score a goal. So that's why, and definitely after Nolan, I walked away going, oh, that's now I really know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Now I really know what it feels like, and I want that fucking as much as I can. And I don't know if you would. I think I only think you would get it from a few TV shows that are on television right now.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's tricky. Like you know, you can't. Fuck, those are few and far between, right? That's the hard thing.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, he certainly only makes a movie every couple of years.
Yeah.
And you know, but what else?
What else?
How long
You wanna
has
go
this
back
been?
to the
75 minutes.
Oh, we gotta wrap this.
I got a quick question though.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Bob Saget fan. I know that you worked with him.
Yeah.
And it was such a tragic story. We all miss Bob. But is there a funny story that you could share with your experiences with Bob Saget?
Jeez. I mean, Bob was like the guy. Bob was your celebrity friend that you could call and he would text you back right away.
Yeah, everyone says that.
Right away.
Yeah.
I remember I was doing my podcast at that time and I was like getting, you know, and like people far less impressive and famous than Bob that I was like fucking chasing to get on the pod. And it literally was like the text back next day, let's do it. He just was that guy. He loved to be needed. He loved to, and he was just great with a compliment. Like he really would just cut directly through like to the thing that you really want to do most. And like,
Yeah.
like he would meet you and 5 minutes into it and he would just be like, but Sean, you're a great actor. Like, you know that, right? Like,
Right.
you know that. And you'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, I know it in my secret place. And you'd be like, well, let's not unlike you're doing it here with me today, a little bit of like honoring that, like true, what's the true part of you? So, I mean, he was always funny and ridiculous and everyone would tell you, you know, if he walked in the room, he's like, the entertainment has arrived,
Right.
you know? But he was the best.
I love the fact that you also, this is smart. So on the inside, the jacket of the book, you can see where you follow Josh. Okay, so on Facebook, it is Josh Peck Official. Twitter, it's Josh Peck. Instagram,
Shua Peck.
Shua Peck.
It's like Joshua Peck. It's all I could get.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm following you, but I didn't know Shua Peck. What is this one? What is the one down from
Twitter or TikTok.
Oh, TikTok, Josh Peck. YouTube, Josh Peck, and then the World Wide Web,
ShuaPeck.com.
ShuaPeck.com.
Yeah.
This is great.
Dude.
Buy the book. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I haven't watched it yet, but Turner and Hooch on Disney Plus. Are you doing a second season?
No, we just did one.
It was just one?
Yeah, but it
Why?
was great. Because they didn't pick up another one.
They didn't pick it up.
Yeah, but it was great.
Oh, whatever. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay. Josh.
Dude, thank you.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Great interview, guys. It was really great.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do a little wrap up here.
What else has Kamala Harris been talking about recently?
Don't get involved.
Let's, you big Trudeau guy.
Yeah, episode 9, no gruffs given. I want to thank Josh for coming in. Happy people are annoying. Buy the book. Send him a DM on Instagram. Say, hey, I heard you on No Gruffs Given. Great interview. And I love the book. With that being said, episode 9 is obviously brought to us by Spreads. Spreads.ca. Okay, so the guys at Spreads are running a promo right now. You place a wager of at least $10 on any pregame or live NHL game, and after your 10th bet is placed, we will give you a $20 free bet, okay? So you're going to get a $20 free bet. NBA free bet offer is available for all NHL playoff games on pregame and in-play single bets or parlay bets from Friday, April 28th to Sunday, June 19th. To qualify for bonus, the 10-game bets on must have a minimum odds of 150 or greater. All right. The guys are also doing a lot of boosted odds. They're doing a lot of bets. I would say right now, okay, if you're a betting man or woman, okay, I'm looking into the future. This is going to come out on Wednesday. Tampa could have the series wrapped up, all right? So you're not going to touch that series, okay? I think the Edmonton-Calgary series is a very interesting series to bet on right now. I think Connor McDavid's going to run cold at a certain point. He's going to have a couple of games where he goes cold, okay? I think that's good news for the Calgary Flames, all right? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where the series is going to be at on Wednesday. They played last night, so it's 2-1 right now.
Yep.
They play again tomorrow.
Yes.
Which is Wednesday. So that's going to be game 4.
Tuesday.
Today's Monday. Game 4 Tuesday. Game 5 Thursday. Point being is it's tough right now. The hockey betting's tough. You got to get in there deep. You got to understand you can't run like Evander Kane's he's not going to stay this hot. I'm telling you, they're going to have a little bit of a rough patch. That being said, our friends at Spreads.ca, they've got everything you need. Okay. We're running this promo. We're going to give you a free $20 bet. Like I've said before, put a face behind the name. Okay. I know the guys that run spreads, you're going to get paid. There's no funny business. They're taking good bets. They're taking your action. All right. We got to put a little juice on the game sometimes. It's just part of the program. To do that, you go to spreads.ca. And generally on days of games, I'm going to give you a bet that I like. I've been running a little bit cold because I've been picking. It's tough to pick the goals for. I mean, I like that bet because you get the best odds. Right? So if you go into Tampa tonight, I'll just tell you, you go to spreads.ca. I like to pick what the total goals are going to be, right? For a team. So let's say on Thursday, Calgary versus Edmonton. Thursday, depending on how the next game goes, I think you're going to go Calgary to score more than 5 goals. I think they're going to have a blowout. Mike Smith's not going to be able to stand. He's not going to play like this for much longer. All right. The first goal last night scored by Calgary. Like I just see this guy come across the crease. He's out of position. I don't know. All right. I'm saying Thursday night, go to spreads.ca, take Calgary to win by a certain amount of goals. You're going to get great odds. And I think that's a shoo-in. All right. But again, today's Monday and who knows what's going to happen. Episode 9, no gruffs given. I was going to talk about Joe, Sleepy Joe, my buddy Joe, okay? He said one thing this week that really threw me off. He talked about how COVID has killed more than 726,000 people. He then proceeded to say it's killed more than World War I, World War II, Vietnam combined, okay? World War I has an estimated 20 million casualties. World War II, 40 million. Vietnam, 1.3 million. Okay. It's just a crazy blunder, and this stuff comes out of his mouth, and I'm not sure why. All right. That's all I got. We had a great interview. Oh, Matt Harvey, 60-game suspension for admitting that he's done cocaine. I thought that was extremely, extremely harsh. I want you to keep an eye on this monkeypox situation. Okay. Because Bill Gates funded something called Gavi, all right? Gavi is his global AIDS vaccine initiative. It's basically, he has the ability, he funds nonprofits that allow him to make tax-free donations that then support the company, and he buys stock in the company. It's a whole crazy thing. Go in and look at it. It's called Gavi, G-A-V-I. Monkeypox, they held a tabletop. All right, the Threat Initiative, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, funded by Bill Gates. March 21st, they held a tabletop exercise where they basically they did a mock fucking event of monkeypox that was going to arrive May 15th, 2022. All right? I'm just saying. Monkeypox, they bought vaccines, the whole thing. What do you think about the playoffs so far?
Connor McDavid's the best hockey player I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, he dominates. I mean, he dominates so much that after the game, they specifically say, like, we couldn't keep him in check. That's how good this guy is. He's unbelievable, but he's going to run cold. He's going to run cold. Kane's not going to he's not going to lead they're going to run cold. Make sure you're at spreads.ca for that opportunity. It's coming, okay? Tampa sweeping.
I think it's going to happen.
I just saw a tweet come in saying that Florida Panther players were at a Tampa-based strip club till 3 a.m.
Are you going to call Kyle back?
And
tell him maybe
I forwarded it to him. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they play great playing guilty. Who knows? Mm-hmm. What are the other series?
So I was going to ask you about this because we're pretty critical of Gerard Gallant and his use of Ryan Reeves in this playoffs.
Yeah, we've been doing the Ranger games on Patreon. We didn't do the last game because, we didn't realize they started the Ranger game at 12:30 and the Tampa game was at 10:30.
Yeah, it overlapped.
And I just couldn't pry myself. But anyways, we've been Patreon streaming the Ranger series. Gerard Gallant, the amount that he's using Ryan Reeves and that fourth line Rooney, it's disturbing. Okay, he was starting periods with them. He's now gotten away from that.
Yeah.
He shuffled the lines a little bit. They had a good game the other night.
Yeah.
But Igor stood on his head. The first 5 minutes, he made fucking 3 or 4 saves.
It could have been 3-0
easily. I think Carolina wins that series, and I think that they're getting out coached. And I think Gerard Gallant he has not risen to the occasion, okay? If anything, maybe he's getting exposed a little bit. I don't think he has the muster to coach in the Big Apple.
So I want to follow up with, we've seen some big injuries just in the past couple days.
Oh, that fucking Gerard hit.
Yeah, so the Gerard hit, even Bednar, the coach with the Avalanche, said that it was a legal hit.
Yeah.
It was just an unfortunate situation. It was a good playoff
Monster hit.
But when you see Jordan Binnington get run, and you see Mike Smith get run into by Luch, I want to ask, because we've been tough on Revo and Gallant, but does it make sense now that he's in there because
no, and I
saw then like Igor's not getting run.
No, I saw Gallant say if they want to finish the game like this, well, we've got the guys, and then he said we've got the guy. He actually said we've got the guys, and then the second time around he said, well, we've got the guy. That guy is not helping you win, all right? You're not in the playoffs to tame intimidation, okay? There's not going to be any fights. Igor's not going to get run, and if he does, Ryan Reeves isn't the answer. Panarin and Mika and Fox on the power play, that's the answer. Not playing Ryan Reeves more. That's not the answer. The Lucic hit, he knew what he was doing, okay? Smith, he came out. There was the whole drama. The fucking the concussion caller came in. Whatever. That was Binnington. I think he's a little soft.
I agree.
And I think something's going on with him, and he's a little bit of a prima donna, and I'm not sure because that hit was not that bad. Now, maybe it was a freak injury, but he threw the water bottle apparently at Kadri afterwards. What was he still doing in the arena? Something's going on there. But it's playoffs.
Yeah.
It's playoffs, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
And if you're not fucking cheating, you're not trying, okay?
Yeah.
If you're not trying to take out their best player, well, you're not doing the right job, all right? You got to run them out of the building on the score, and if you have to do it physically, you do it. That's it.
I think one last point. Cale Makar started really hot. He's cooled off. The rookies, Seth Jarvis, playing on the first line with Carolina. If we had to pick our Calder picks now, Seth Jarvis looks like an absolute superstar. And I think he's probably the best rookie in the league right now.
Yeah, well, they're always going to be, they love Bunting because Bunting had a great regular season. We what does that do for you now? You know, how quickly have we forgotten about the Toronto Maple Leafs? The regular season and the playoffs are two totally different animals. And you're seeing the guys that want to play, well, they want to play and they're making some noise. So it's interesting to watch. It's fun to watch. I don't know what Tampa's going to do tonight, if they're going to sweep. But yeah, we'll have a full rundown next week. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, me too.
Episode 9. No gruffs given. Spreads.ca for all your betting needs. We'll see you next week.